So tell me about yourself. The first one, I guess I am a engineering instructor at Monterey Peninsula College and been teaching there for 18 years. Before that, I worked 13 years at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena as a telecom engineer, telecommunications. And I was doing a lot of work with the ground system that they have there, which it tracks the spacecraft as they travel through the solar system. It's a NASA lab, kind of their mission is robotic space exploration. And so I got to see a lot of really cool stuff, do a lot of cool projects with them. And then before that, I was a student at MIT, and I got my bachelor's and master's there in '87, and I was doing a co-op there with MIT Lincoln Laboratory in an area of kind of an e-warfare. It was a military research lab, and I was doing some research in some low-level components that they were using, like an anti-jamming system for battlefield communications. So that's sort of my professional career. I grew up also in the Midwest. I grew up in the Chicago area. Went to a nice high school, kind of got me well prepared for all this stuff. And I'm just going backwards, yeah. But I always, actually, from an early age, very early age, I was very interested in the space program, NASA stuff. So I was watching the Neil Armstrong as he walked on the moon in '69. That was a big motivating factor for me to go into engineering and study math and science and all those things. So yeah, that's kind of my background in a nutshell.
Yeah, so let me ask you, I know you already answered where did you go to school, but what was your major when you were at MIT? What did you receive your bachelor's in and your master's in?
Yeah, well, when I got to MIT, I didn't really know what I wanted to study. All I knew about was physics. I thought that was pretty cool. But
Awesome.
yeah, in high school we had a good physics program and stuff. And they don't really teach you about engineering in high school, so I didn't really know anything about it. And but then when I got there, I was exposed to the kind of the computer revolution. The personal computer had just come out. Macintosh Apple had a few products out there. The Macintosh was just kind of coming out at that time, and everybody was really excited about that. And so there was a huge influx of people into the electrical engineering program and the computer science program at MIT. So I kind of followed that forward. I was just really the physics thing was sort of abstract, and I didn't really see. I think I also got the impression that most of the jobs in physics would be working maybe on military projects or something. And I kind of like the idea that there was a lot of jobs in EE with the computer stuff going on, and I didn't really figure things out until later that this would connect me to my dream area of space research. But I was mainly just interested in how computers worked. I just was kind of, because everybody was really excited about them at the time, so it was a chance for me to kind of study how they actually work. And so yeah, and in fact, I don't know if I would have really stuck with it. The first class I took, it was a really intense programming class, and it served to really show me that I didn't really want to be a computer science major, because it was just so hardcore. I could not grasp what they were getting at. They threw so much at you too fast. But then I took circuits, and I really nailed the circuits class, and that kind of convinced me to go into EE, because I thought it was really fascinating how that all sort of worked, and I was pretty good at managing all that stuff. So that was sort of my decision point. That happened my freshman year, I think. I took circuits my freshman year in spring. And then I kind of declared the major of electrical engineering. And then after my sophomore year, I was able to apply for a co-op. So I got into a pretty cool co-op at Lincoln Laboratory. It was pretty competitive. And then that kind of really helped me out a lot in terms of directing my career. I studied, I was really interested in how the communication systems worked. And then after the low-level courses, you get to take digital signal processing courses, sort of in the upper division. And I took some of those, and I was applying some of that at my work, so that was pretty cool. And so I did pretty well. And then with the co-op program, you can stay another year and just take classes and work at the company that you were doing your co-op at on your thesis. And so I did that, and I basically, so they're both in electrical engineering and computer science, basically with an electrical engineering major for both my master's and my bachelor's.
Awesome. So you said you had to write your thesis at this co-op opportunity that you were given?
Well, one of the advantages of for MIT and that was that they used the co-op companies to provide projects for students to do their thesis on. So it alleviated some of the burden, because especially the EE program was so large, they didn't have to provide the support for the grad students at MIT. So since you were working at the company was able to give me projects that were suitable for a master's degree. And yeah, so that and it was nice. It was basically you get a pretty large stipend, and they pay for your tuition, so it makes it really affordable to keep on going to grad school.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think that's still pretty typical if you're interested in that. It's not getting in 1 year is unique, I think, but the stipend that you can get as a grad student is usually.
I see. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to another question, and I put right here for a third question. What made you decide to become an engineer? I know you said that you were interested in communications, but I'm sure something started when you were obviously in like high school, in your younger ages. I know you said that, the landing on the moon, NASA, that was something big, but can you elaborate a little on that? Like what just really grabbed your eye? What was something that was like, wow, this is what I want to be, maybe I don't want to be specifically one thing, but I want to participate in this field, in this area.
It wasn't really clear for me. I don't know. I think I came to it because of my just following my interests. And I think at an earlier age, I think when you look back, well, yeah, this is sort of, I used to build stuff. I used to like constructing stuff. I used to always like the structure of things. I remember like building models. I didn't really like to paint them that much. I just wanted to build them.
I see, okay.
I didn't care what they looked like.
Yeah, as long as they were standing up or something.
Yeah, and I liked the way stuff kind of stuck together, and and so and then I was sort of into model airplanes, and I was building some model airplanes, and I crashed one, and then I started thinking about rebuilding it, and then I kind of looked into how you could design it, and the design process for an aircraft was a pretty interesting drafting problem. I took drafting in high school, which was kind of helpful too.
Okay.
So I was able to apply some of that, I think, or maybe I had already done that. I can't remember when I took it, but yeah, it was kind of cool to actually. And then I was realizing I kind of liked designing the airplane more than flying it. I hardly ever flew the airplane, but I spent a lot of time designing it, hours and hours and hours, and building it and rebuilding it and putting it together and everything. I still have that thing, and I kind of ran off to college right after I fixed it up again, and I never really tried it out much.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably take it flying again.
Yeah. So when you took this drafting class, um, how was the draft? I know now,
Oh yeah,
obviously there's
yeah.
CAD,
It
other
was all instruments. It was all you
it's
know.
all freehand, right? It's all
Well, yeah, you had. I mean, you got to use like T squares and triangles. They had templates for drawing like ovals. Different kinds of ovals.
I see.
They
Well,
showed you how to do. Yeah, they showed you how to do isometric drawings and the orthographic stuff. So I learned all that.
yeah, yeah.
And that reflecting line, where you go from one view to another, that was really helpful.
Yeah, that the auxiliary views, those are I think that's what you're talking about where you're you're
Well,
you're seeing a plane that I guess you're trying to show a plane that is not visible off of an isometric view. But that was a concept that always kind of was a little harder for me. But I guess once I got the process down, it became easier. But it's just hard
yeah,
to sometimes see like the back of 3D images when you're trying to draw them on a on a piece of paper.
yes,
But it's definitely something interesting though.
it is. It's really interesting. And for a kid, I think I was lucky I got exposed to it, early. Later on, I mean, I've been reading that, that the visual thinking skills are really important for engineering, for success in engineering. And that's definitely applied to double E as well, even though it's more abstract. There's a lot of visualization that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped me out to be able to visualize things. Sometimes if I couldn't understand it, if I could sort of see it in my head, then it made a lot of sense. And, you could take the math formulas and all that stuff and sometimes convert them into an image that would really help would really help the understanding.
Yeah, I like that you said that. Yeah, definitely when you see something, it'll help you understand it more versus when if you just have a bunch of numbers, in front of you and you don't really know, you become a little overwhelmed with what's going on around you. But once everything comes together, it just helps you grasp the concept a
Yeah,
lot.
and you can never really be sure if you're right if all you're doing is plugging stuff in formulas.
Yeah,
If you can't see or visualize it, whether it makes sense or not, then it's really hard to know. So I never liked those classes. I eventually took some classes later, so most of the classes I did pretty well in, but then there were some classes like in information theory and in like stochastic signal processing. It was a lot of probability and statistics and stuff, and it's really hard to visualize those things. So
yeah,
I didn't do too well in them.
yeah. No, yeah, I just took a probability class, not just this past semester, and it was very kind of confusing because we're as engineers, I feel like we're not we're very exposed to hard math, but not probability. Probability.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about stuff. It
Yeah,
doesn't come easy. It's not as intuitive, I think, as calculus. Calculus makes a lot more sense
yeah.
than
Okay,
probability.
so what do you love about your job that makes you feel accomplished? Like I know that that's something that kind of I always look forward to. I want to like how like at the beginning of every day, you want to accomplish so many things, but like
Yeah.
what's something that makes you feel like okay, I did I did what I needed to do today, and I can sleep, I can rest well and know that I'm happy with what I'm doing, and yeah, just happy about like your job.
Well, as an instructor, I mean, I think that would be um, I don't know. I mean, I think what I really get out of teaching is a chance to maybe uh, explore certain things. What's kind of interesting is that when I was working as an engineer, I didn't really, if I wanted to, if I was interested in something to explore, I often wouldn't really do it because I had my whole career I had to worry about, if there was some side thing. Sometimes I would do that anyway on my job. I would maybe explore some stuff that was somewhat related. But if I was curious about something that didn't really have any connection to what I was doing, like I was sort of interested in robotics, but my job was a telecommunications engineer, so I didn't really get exposed to that
Yeah.
as an engineer, even though I knew how to program. I had done some, stuff like that, which wasn't too far away. I just didn't really get a chance to play with it. I didn't really want to make that my hobby since I was already doing full-time engineering jobs. So I never really got to explore that. But then once I went into teaching, you have an excuse to kind of really explore all kinds of things. There's usually a way to bring something in that you're interested in into a class, so that kind of made me feel accomplished when I could bring in some stuff. Sometimes I brought in, like in the intro class, I think I did some MATLAB thing, which was about like a Mars lander, and I always felt, to be able to bring in, take your experience and turn it into something interactive for people to kind of get absorbed in was a really cool part of teaching. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does. I mean, there's other benefits to teaching as well, but I think basically it gives you sort of free reign to bring in your interests and share them with other people.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
And when I can do that, I feel like I've accomplished something really, really important for people and for myself.
Yeah, of course, because you're, like you said, it's something that interests you, and not only are you exposing, say your students, but you're feeding your own little, your own, I guess, hunger for
Yes.
learning about this.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, what advice do you have for young engineers? Say for myself, someone who's a senior, now in college and is moving towards getting more into the professional field. What's something that that you can say that that would serve as advice?
Well, I would recommend, I mean, for where you are, I mean, you're just sort of finishing up your education, and you're probably starting to think about where you would be going after. So I think it's probably good. Like I think my co-op experience was one of those huge beneficial things that really opened a lot of opportunities for me. And I think part of it was being able to see what people were doing in the career that I'd chosen. And it gives you a lot of context for when you go back to school and take follow-on classes on where they all sort of fit in, so you're not actually just sort of taking stuff blindly.
Yeah, so you would say like exposing yourself to projects, to different varieties of projects or
yeah, and also professionals. So I would I had a few people I was thinking of connecting you with, and
yeah.
maybe you'll have an excuse to interview some more people, or just I had a student, I don't know if you know Brendan. He came back to ask me some advice on a choice he's trying to make for his first job, and I was kind of giving him my take, and then I thought, well, I could probably get him better advice if he talks to my friend who's a chemical engineer. So I was able to connect him with someone like that, and so they were able to chat for a bit, and that gave him a more I think realistic view of what the industry was going to be like for him.
Yeah, perfect.
So I think where you are, now you said you're going to be taking some upper division classes now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna start taking design electives, and
Okay.
yeah, so I'm mostly focused on. At first I was thinking of structural engineering, but
Yeah.
I've noticed that. So like what you're saying, from what I've heard, is that structural engineers are very they're very much on programs, you know, in their offices. You know, they don't really get exposed too much to the actual, I guess you could say like the actual construction site. But I mean, and I'm sure there are exceptions to that. But
Yes.
kind of I've always been more of a like an outside person. Obviously, I've worked in construction, so I'm very hands on, and I like to. I don't think I can be, you know, in an office, you know, like,
Yeah. Well,
you know, be my
that
career.
I know that could be a change for you, but I think it might be. Um, I mean, that's kind of that's sort of I think what one thing that could be helpful to chat with some people about, because then you know you might even be able to go out and visit them on site, or
Hmm.
um, do some. Uh, I mean, possible. I suppose you might be able to do some small project for them, but but you're right. I think that is, if that is really important to you, then you know you
Yeah,
can
I just
certainly shift towards those opportunities that are going to give you that sort of experience exposure.
yeah, just because, like, you know, back to the question of like what makes you feel accomplished. I feel like with me, I need to physically see something that I've made or helped, you know, helped
Uh-huh.
manage. I feel
Yeah.
like that would give me satisfaction, you know, like, you know, hey, I contributed to this project. You know, if it wasn't for me and my team, you know what I mean, this building wouldn't be here, or this, you know, this dam, or whatever the case may be. But I feel
Hmm.
like you need to physically see like progress.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of how I, like I said, I've been around construction, and so that's how you can tell work is being done in construction, is
Hmm.
if you see you know, if you see progress, if you see a project moving along, you know.
Yes. So you probably already have a lot of experience then in the field that you want to work in with your construction background.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes it kind of works against me that I don't want to be inside, and you know, like inside of an office. Like I feel like that's something that I definitely need to be more open-minded to, because of course I'm going, even though I've been in construction, I'm not going to be constructing. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna be managing, if anything, or I'm gonna
Mhm.
be
Yeah.
answering questions, but I'm not, you know, I'm gonna be doing a lot more with paperwork and, you know, the ins and outs of you know, RFIs and submittals, and I just feel like I need to expose myself more to that and not be as closed-minded to like, okay, I need to be outside and like physically
Yeah.
putting something together. But yeah, I get what
Well,
you're
and
saying.
also you have sort of a fallback career if you don't like engineering.
Yeah, definitely.
um, yeah, that's, you're in an interesting situation. I don't know how much my background can help you
No,
there,
but
but
I like the reason why I wanted to interview you and not some of the people that you suggested was because I feel like you're one of the reasons why like you've helped me through, you know, at MPC, at the college that I was at. um I just felt like you were very, like you weren't restricted to like sharing your knowledge, and that's awesome, because you know, like one of my pet peeves is that somebody, you know, like I'm trying to learn, and you're limiting me to something that, you know, maybe you don't want me to know, or you know, like maybe you think that like it's making you less valuable, or you know,
oh,
something like that. But I feel like you were very uh, you know, motivational. You were someone
well,
that
thank you.
is, but not only that, but very intelligent. Like it's just fun. I find it funny that that out of all the subjects that you liked is like physics, and I struggled a lot with physics. But
Well,
it's
I liked it too until I got to college.
yeah, it's just it's funny because people have, you know, everyone's different and everyone has their own background.
No, it's very, the way physics is taught. I think there's a definite problem with that. And it's interesting. There are schools now that are experimenting with, and more so I think with math, but I think it could also apply to physics. That they're actually there's a school in Ohio that's been experimenting with this model where they give students a crash course in the higher level math that they need to take the engineering classes, and then they can go straight after this course to taking all the engineering courses. They don't have to take all those semesters of calculus and differential equations and everything.
Really?
Linear algebra, they can just learn what they need to solve the engineering problems. And
That's
then,
actually really cool. Yeah.
yeah, then they can take the math after they've taken the engineering, and then they do so much better in the math because now they know why they're doing the math. And I
Yeah.
think the same thing applies to physics. They sort of have it backwards in that they try to stuff all these concepts down you without even giving you
Where they apply, yeah, where you're gonna use them.
an exposure to how useful they can be. And you don't see that until you take the engineering classes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like, the engineering classes will finally help some part of the physics that you got make sense, but it's only a small part because the physics is much broader than the engineering. It would make a lot more sense to do the same thing, give people just enough physics to understand the engineering, and then come back to physics. They'd be so much stronger after they had engineering. I'm sort of, I had students who go off into physics, and I'd sort of catch up with them, and I'm kind of envious because it is a pretty cool field. But
yeah.
and now that I have all the engineering, it kind of makes a lot more sense to me. But
Definitely. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up, Tom.
Sure.
I just want to end with this last question did you ever have a doubt about yourself throughout your process of becoming an engineer? Like, was there something that that you faced that you feel like was a big obstacle, and that like that you would have say some advice towards that? Like, how did you maybe overcome it, or?
Is that coming from your kind of question about whether you want to be an engineer or maybe just staying with your current?
No, it's just more of like, did you like, because you know how when you're in college, sometimes you're faced with a very stressful workload, and maybe was there ever a time that you're like, this isn't worth it. I'm just gonna like, I'm not gonna be good at this, and then you found out that I'm happy that I stuck with what I was doing, and I couldn't imagine my life being what it is without me, and without me accomplishing what I did.
Well, I mean, I think I could see a couple of different ways to respond to that. One of them is, I didn't really have any, like, once I got, I scored so well in circuits. This was like the first double E course that it gave me the confidence to just continue on, even though I didn't do maybe as well in all the other classes. Okay. I got enough sort of positive feedback that at least the academic side would be okay. I think what happened was after I got on the job, or actually, I think after studying engineering for 4 years, I kind of started feeling like I was missing, like I was sort of getting unbalanced, and there were some parts of myself that I wasn't really able to express in my engineering job, and I felt a little bit inhibited by some of those things that I started getting really interested in literature and philosophy, metaphysics, sort of like the meaning of life kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I liked to view things. I started liking to view things more from a higher level of like where, what was all this about. And I think, actually at a certain point, I had skills. I had some good writing skills when I was in high school, and I did have to make a decision to choose between two schools, MIT and another school, which would have been more of a liberal arts, kind of a more liberal arts focus. And I sort of decided MIT because it was, I think, a more sexy option. But
yeah,
I sometimes wonder how it would have been if I had chosen the other place, but you can't really go back. I think one of the things that are a little bit down on engineering as a feel is sometimes you spend so much time rushing to get the job done, you don't have time to appreciate what you're doing. And but that's
Yeah.
also, it's also kind of an exhilarating part of it too, because there's just so many things coming at you. You just like, and you're you know, when you get on top of it, it's pretty awesome. But it does, and I think, you know, if you're a more, and I think it's good, you know, that you want to be more physically active, because I think that does help balance you. But if you get in an office job and you're just doing a whole bunch of brainiac stuff all the time, that can kind of wear you down after a while. And I think that's one of the reasons why I went into teaching, was because I was getting pretty unbalanced, just kind of doing the office stuff all the time. So moving around is pretty good, and that's one thing teaching allows you to do.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that totally answered my question. It wasn't like, I wasn't really specifically asking him if like if there was a doubt, but I mean, if you know what I mean, you answered
Yeah,
that perfectly. If that,
yeah.
if is there something that you know you kind of struggled with, or you know realized you know after you became an engineer? And so for you, you said that you kind of started getting unbalanced, and
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
something that teaching has helped you, you know, I guess overcome, because now you're exposed to, you're not just stuck with one, you know, one project or something. You know, you're always running around campus, so you have so much
I know.
on your plate. But I guess in that way it makes it fun though, because you're not,
Right.
you know, you're not stuck on one concept all day. So
Sure.
and then not only that, but you interact with students, and you know you're
Yeah,
helping.
that's what I found. What I like about teaching, and what I sort of miss though is that I don't get an opportunity to do as many projects anymore. So that's another thing. I kind of want to go back and do more technical projects, but you know, so I'm actually looking forward to being able to shift at some point soon. I think I'm going to, in about a year, I'll be able to maybe change my hours a little bit and do more maybe some side work in engineering again, because I do like that as well. I
Yeah.
think my ideal job would be like 50-50 teaching and 50% technical projects and stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, Tom. Thank you
Mhm.
for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you. Good
I'll have,
questions. You are actually really, I'm admiring your interviewing skills. I
thank
like
you.
the way you.
I feel like I've been to enough interviews where you
I
know
did, okay.
the
Well,
question.
you're really good at paraphrasing what was just said. That's a really good skill.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. So
Yeah.
I will be in contact with you. Thank you for this interview, and
Sure.
yeah, like I said, I'll be in contact with you soon.
Yeah. About scheduling that job.
Yeah, definitely. So I end school. I have the summer class until it's actually very short. I get out on July 13th.
Okay.
Um, and then I am going to Mexico right after for a week. So
Okay.
by July 23rd, I am back, and I should be very much available to schedule something with you.
Uh, okay. Let's talk about that. I'm going to be going away myself from the 25th of July to the